Hello, welcome to Azure Back to School, and we are here to showcase our session Monitor Office 365 Environments with Azure Sentinel. Office 365 usage is increasing very hugely, and with the increase in usage day by day, it also increases the challenges to monitor the Office 365 environment for its usage. There are various products, tools, and ways available to monitor the user as well as the admin activities in Office 365. In this session, we will explore Azure Sentinel to monitor the Office 365 environment for its usage as well as detect any kind of an possible risk. So the agenda for this session is we will see all of the challenges associated with Office 365 environment monitoring, how we can monitor those Office 365 logs from Azure Sentinel, as well as at the same time how we can carry out the threat detection with Azure Sentinel Analytics and how we can respond to all of those threats. Quick introduction of myself. I'm Nanddeep Nachan. I am from Pune, India. A Microsoft MVP for Office Apps and Services, as well as Microsoft Certified Trainer. Author of couple of books on SharePoint Framework as well as SharePoint Hybrid. And here are few of the social handlers onto the right hand side to get in touch with me. And with me today is Smita.
Hello all, myself Smita Nachan. I am from Pune, India. I am a Microsoft MVP as well as Microsoft certified trainer. I'm author of one book and these are some of my social handlers by which you can get in touch with me. So now let's see what are the challenges with Office 65 environment monitoring. So as a large number of users are using various Office 65 apps and services, so including Exchange, SharePoint, Microsoft Teams, it is very much essential to keep a track of user activities. So Microsoft 365 offers various fine-grained roles or administrators who can perform various activities to certain apps and services by modifying tenant or application settings. So for example, enabling external sharing, set the authentication mode, network settings, and many more things. So which may impose a security risk. So you can use the Microsoft 365 Compliance Center to search the unified audit log to view user and administrator activities in your organization. So you can search for various types of users and admin activities in Microsoft 365 using a SharePoint online, OneDrive for Business, Power Apps, Power BI, Power Automate, Microsoft Teams, Dynamic 365, Yammer, Microsoft Stream, Microsoft Workplace Analytics, Microsoft Forms, and sensitivity labels for a site that use SharePoint Online or Microsoft Teams. So the audit log search is turned on by default for Microsoft 365 and Office 365 enterprise organizations. So you have to be assigned the view only audit logs or audit logs role in Exchange Online to search the audit log. So by default, these roles are assigned to the compliance management and organization management role groups on the permission page in the Exchange Admin Center. So to give a user the ability to search the audit log with a minimum level of privileges, you can create a custom role group in Exchange Online, add the view only audit logs or audit logs roles, and then you can add the user as a member of the new role group.
So now that let's quickly see a demo of from where we can monitor all those audit logs from the compliance center. So for that, let me quickly open up my Office 365 Admin Center. And once you go to the compliance tab, here we should be able to see the audit logs. So this is the page from where we'll be able to search all of the audit logs available for all of the activities carried by your users as well as the admins. So by default, this will give you the range of 1 week, but we can go beyond 90 days. So means at least we'll be able to search for any of the logs which is in the 90 days of interval. So let me quickly search the same start date and end date, and let me just quickly adjust the time for entire 24 hours window. From the activities here, you can see that we'll be able to search for various activities, including file and page activities, SharePoint, Microsoft Teams, For example, if you have enabled native mode for Yammer, so even from there you'll be able to search for the Yammer activities as well. So let's say quickly we want to search for any kind of an change sharing policy or anything else, we'll be able to do it. At the same time, we will be able to search based on a specific user. So let's say now that we want to see for this particular time range, what are the activities being performed by this admin users. And then we can simply click on this search, and this one will help us to get to all of the activities performed by this particular user during this particular date range. So this will show all of those activities, whether that particular user is just a normal user, or for example, if he or she is the admin, we will be able to monitor all of those activities which a certain user has performed. And then again, onto the left hand side top corner here, we have a export. So while it loads, let's see like how the export works. So all of those activities which you can see right now here are performed by this particular user on this particular time frame. So what we can do is we can monitor this, or even from here we can click export and we can download all of the results. Once we do that, all of those audit logs will be downloaded in the form of a CSV. In the CSV, we have at least three major parameters here, like the creation date when this particular activity had happened, then what are the users or who were the users who were involved into this particular activity, what was the operation or list of the operations that were carried out by those users. And then here we have one audit data. So this audit data is nothing but a JSON. So for example, if we open up this particular JSON, this is how it will look, where it will give us the entire information about the creation time, a unique ID for this particular event log, then the operation which was carried out. At the same time, here we also have something called as a workload, by which we'll be able to specify for which Office apps or service this particular activity has happened. And for example, since this one has happened for SharePoint for a list item updated event, we'll be able to get more information about on which list ID, list item this particular activity has happened. So in a nutshell, we'll be able to monitor all of the activities of our Office 365 admins as well as the users from this Office 365 admin center, from this compliance log. At the same time, even you can directly browse to this particular URL from compliance.microsoft.com/audit log results. And from here, we'll be able to monitor all those activities.
Now let's see Office 65 audit logs retention. So Office 65 audit log tracks every user and account action across all of the Office 65 services. So when an audited activity is performed by a user or admin, and audit record is generated and stored in the audit log for your organization. So for the users, assign an Office 65 E5 or Microsoft 365 E5 license, or the user with the Microsoft 365 E5 compliance or Microsoft 365 E5 e-discovery and audit add-on license. Audit records for Azure Active Directory, Exchange, and SharePoint activity are retained for 1 year by default. And then for the users, assign any other non-E5 Office 365 or Microsoft 365 license. Audit records are retained for 90 days. Now let's see why we need Office 65 logs. So Office 365 monitors most of these activities and logs those under the Security and Compliance Center. However, these logs are available for 90 days only. So for auditing and historic purpose, we should store these logs somewhere, and Azure Sentinel comes in a handy way over here. So the company's governance policies require that users should access regulated documents using the company's secure VPN. So from the audit logs, we can monitor how and from where employees are downloading sensitive documents from SharePoint Online or OneDrive for Business. Organizations can easily apply a legal hold on the search results and prepare for the legal suit. Let's have some of the Azure Sentinel overview. So Microsoft Azure Sentinel is a scalable cloud native security information event management, that is SIM, and security orchestration automated response SOR solution. So Azure Sentinel delivers intelligent security analytics and threat intelligence across the enterprise, providing a single solution for alert detection, threat visibility, proactive hunting, and the threat responses. So let's see where the Azure Sentinels help us. So it's help us to collect the data at a cloud scale across all users, devices, applications, and infrastructure, both on premises and in multiple clouds. Next thing, it detects previously undetected threats and minimize false positive weights, false positives using Microsoft Analytics and unparalleled threat intelligence. Also, is investigate threats with artificial intelligence and hunt for suspicious activities at scale, tapping into years of cybersecurity work at Microsoft. It also helps to respond to incidents rapidly with built in orchestration and automation of common tasks.
So now that quickly see how we can set up this Azure Sentinel itself. So now that I will just move to another tenant where I don't have Azure Sentinel set up as of now. So you can either go to this create a resource, search for it, or from this top box here, you will be able to just search for Azure Sentinel. Once you search that here, it should be where you should be able to see it. Once you click on it, it will just show up a window, a kind wizard kind of a thing from where we will be able to set up our Azure Sentinel. So either click create button here or create Azure Sentinel. So what happened now is that Azure Sentinel always need a workplace to work with, which we call it as a log analytics workspace. So once you click on this create new workspace, here we should be able to create new log analytics workspace. So here you can just specify your subscription, your resource group, name and the region. When you do it, in the next thing, you will be able to just specify that particular pricing tier, tags and review and create. Once you do that, that particular Azure Sentinel will look like something like this. So this is how this Azure Sentinel has been set up. And then we have this Azure Log Analytics Workspace being attached to our Azure Sentinel.
Now let's see how to connect Office 365 logs to Azure Sentinel. So Azure Sentinel provides connectors to connect to your data in various systems, including Microsoft 365 Defender, so formerly Microsoft Threat Protection Solutions, and Microsoft 365 sources, including Office 365 Azure Active Directory, Microsoft Defender for Identity, so formerly it's Azure ATP, and Microsoft Cloud App Security. Let's see some of the prerequisites for it. So Office 365 log connectors help us to bring the user and admin activities from Exchange, SharePoint, OneDrive, and Microsoft Teams into Azure Sentinel. So this information includes details of action such as file downloads, access request sends, changes to group events, mailbox operations, team events such as chat, team members, and channel event, as well as the details of the user who perform the actions. So main prerequisites are read and write permissions on your Azure Sentinel workspace, global administrator or security administrator rights on Office 65 tenant, then Office 65 deployment must be on the same tenant as your Azure Sentinel workspace.
So now that we have our Azure Sentinel ready, as well as we have our log analytics workspace attached to Azure Sentinel. Now that let's see how we can bring in all those Office 365 logs to Azure Sentinel. So now that again I will go back to the Azure Sentinel, and this is the Azure Sentinel that we had created, and this is the log analytic workspace which is attached to this Azure Sentinel. Once you click over here, here this will just give you some kind of an dashboard where we'll be able to monitor all of the activities which are available. But now that let's see how we can bring all those data inside this Azure Sentinel. So for that, what we can do is we have various data connectors available by default. So since the topic of this particular session is about monitoring the Office 365 logs, so I will just search for Office 365 and here at least we have couple of connectors available to us. So first one is this Office 365, which we will see now. And the other one is again Defender for Office 365, which is in the preview. So let's see both of those one by one. So once you click on Office 365, here you should be able to see the basic information as a description here, and then just click on this open connector page wherein it will give us some more wizard kind of a thing from where we'll be able to bring all those logs from Office 65 logs to Azure Sentinel. So here you can see that these are the prerequisites which we just saw. And then under the configuration, we can specify which kind of an logs we are interested to bring into Azure Sentinel. So for example, Exchange, SharePoint, and Teams. So right now we have selected all of those. And then right now, this particular Azure Sentinel only supports single tenant kind of a connection. That means uh, to your Office 65 tenant, your Azure tenant should be associated so that you will be able to bring in all of the logs from your Office 65 into the Azure Sentinel. So now that we have done all those things, what I will do is again, let's get back and then see this another kind of an connector which is available. This one is for Microsoft Defender, or formerly as Microsoft ATP. So from here, we'll be able to monitor all of those malicious URL, phishing URLs, as well as any kind of a suspicious email with some kind of a suspicious attachment. So from here, we'll be able to monitor all those kind of a thing. So what will happen now is that we have a connector which we have attached to our Azure Sentinel. So whenever any of the logs which will incur at your Office 65 logs, all those logs will be pulled through this connector, and those will be available to us at, or all of those logs will be available to us at Azure Sentinel for carrying out our further analysis.
So after you connected your data sources to Azure Sentinel, you can monitor the data using Azure Sentinel integration with Azure Monitor Workbooks, so which provides the flexibility in creating a custom workbooks. So Azure Sentinel allow you to create a custom workbooks across your data, and also comes with built-in workbook template to allow you to quickly gain insights across your data as soon as you connect a data source.
So let's see like what are the out-of-box templates available to us from the workbooks, as well as how we'll be able to set up our own. So again, I will move back to the Azure Sentinel, and onto the left-hand navigation, we have our workbooks. So under threat management, we have a workbooks. So again, as we discussed, there are various templates available out of the box. So now that, let's say, for example, again, we search for Office 365, we have this workbook readily available from Microsoft, which we can use easily. And once you just click on this view template, this one will show the entire template. And here we will be able to analyze all of the logs which have been pulled from Office 365 logs into this workbook. So here we can select either all of the workloads, or just a single specific workload related to SharePoint or Microsoft Teams or Exchange. So now that we are selecting all, and then again, which kind of an user activities do we want to monitor here? So let's say, for example, we want to monitor all of the user activities, including users as well as the admin. We'll be able to see it. And now that you can see the dashboard which has been created from here, and we'll be able to see all of those activities which are happening inside of those workloads by the workload category. So here we have workloads including Exchange, SharePoint, OneDrive, as well as Microsoft Teams, and we'll be able to see all of those activities happening across all those workloads. And then here we have some kind of an chart through which we'll be able to see like which activities are very much frequent, and again all of those activities by type. So for example, what has happened to that particular workload, any kind of a list operations, page operations, file operations that has been carried out on those. Again, we have other graphs explaining those activities by user type, because as we discussed, there are various types of user. Maybe some are normal users and some are the admin users. So again, we'll be able to see all those admin activities by their type. For example, if something had changed or something has been more created or modified or deleted, all of those activities will be able to see from here. At the same time, from here, we will be able to see how those activities are happening over the time. So we have various graphs as well as the charts available through which we'll be able to carry out the analysis of all of the user activities or all of the group activities which are happening across that particular timeline. And at the bottom of this page, we also have some kind of in the recent activities, which is a kind of an raw data which is available to us, which we can read through. At the same time, we have certain user activities. For example, you want to see like who is the most active user here, who is performing all those activities, will be able to carry out that analysis as well. And then at the down, we have analysis done by the workload, for example, SharePoint and OneDrive. What are the top activities happening in this particular workload? At the same time, what are the top activities happening on onto the Exchange and other part? So this is the out of the box template available to us from Microsoft, from where we'll be able to see all of the activities happening across all of those workloads. But now that let's see, for example, we want to go beyond this and we want to develop our own template. In that case, how we can do it? So in that case, we can just click on this add workbook, and from here we'll be able to create our new workbook. So once we start with our new workbook, here this will give us some page, a kind of a startup page, which will help us to build our new workbook. And then you can click on edit, and then from here we will be able to edit all of the sections which are available here. So for example, if you want to just monitor all of those activities which are happening for your SharePoint, so let's say for example SharePoint online site creation kind of an activities, you can change this particular header, and then again you can write some nice description explaining on that. And then once you are done with your changes, documentation changes, you can just click on done editing, and you will be able to see all those changes being reflected here. Similarly, now that this one is showing all of those activities by workload, if you want to change the query, just click on this edit button, and here you will be able to write your own query. So this is the simple query that we have here, uh, or specifically, this one is called as a KQL, or a Custo Query Language. So it is the query language used to perform analysis on data to create analytics, workbooks, as well as perform hunting inside Azure Sentinel. So having a basic understanding of KQL statement structure provides the foundation to build more complex kind of a statement. So let's say, for example, now here we just want to see all of those activities which are happening onto the SharePoint. So in that case, what we can do is we can just start with our um Office activity table, which we have here. Now that, for example, if we run this, we'll be able to see all of those activities which are recorded inside this particular table. All right, so let it take some time. Maybe I will just cancel it because there will be more of data. So now that since this one is a KQL, what we can do is we will filter it down by the office workload. Okay, so the office workload here is SharePoint. Okay, so now that we are only filtering onto the SharePoint, and let's say, for example, we just want to filter it out further on where the operation is equal to probably site collection created. So let's say, for example, we want to track how many number of sites are being created, and then you can just click on this run, and here we have the entire result of how many sites have been created. So now that we have this result, but probably this is not the most readable result that we have written, because here we just have some raw format kind of a data where we will be able to just see the share record type as a SharePoint, when it was generated, what is the operation being carried out, and then again some kind of an raw information which is not that much of appealing. So what we can do here now is that probably we can extend this particular custom query, and here I'm just starting with days which are till 90 days. Again, the office activity, we are carrying the office activity. Workload is SharePoint. Again, the operation is site collection created. And now that we are just transforming this particular information into some kind of a readable data. So now that what we can do is maybe I will just click on this done editing, and we will be able to see that particular information being represented here in a chart kind of an format. So these are all of the activities which have happened onto our tenant for SharePoint site collection created. So as a background, SharePoint site collection can be created from SharePoint Admin Center. Maybe, for example, you are creating a Yammer. In that case, again, there will be a background SharePoint site. Again, for example, if you are creating a Microsoft Teams team, again, in the background, there will be SharePoint site created. So all those things you will be able to see here. So let's say, for example, this is the site, first site that got created here. This one is for Teams service. Then this one is from the Office 365 Admin Center, and this is another site which has created for Yammer. So from here, we'll be able to see all those things. So in a nutshell, there are few templates available from Microsoft out of the box through which we'll be able to analyze our data. Otherwise, what we can do is we can create our custom workbook through which we'll be able to monitor all those logs which are happening.
Microsoft Azure Sentinel Analytics provides an intelligent solution to help detect potential threats and vulnerabilities in the organization. So let's see how Azure Sentinel Analytics can help identify and stop cyber attacks. So Azure Sentinel Analytics helps to detect, investigate, and remediate cybersecurity threats. It analyzes data from various sources to identify correlations and anomalies. So using analytics rules, we can trigger alerts based on the attack techniques that are used by known malicious actors. With the analytics rule, we can get insights of where an attack originated from, what resources were compromised, potential data loss, along with the timeline for the incident. The analytic rules can be managed from Azure Sentinel Analysis homepage.
Okay, so with that, let's dive into the demo of how to create those analytics rules. So alerts triggered in Microsoft security solutions like Microsoft Defender for Identity that are connected to Azure Sentinel do not automatically create incidents. However, we can configure Azure Sentinel to automatically create incidents every time an alert is triggered. Okay, so for that, let me again go back to the Azure Sentinel, and here we have something called as analytics. And from this analytics, we will be able to create the incidents. So what we can do is we can start with this create, and here we have two options. First one is the scheduled query rule, and the second one is the Microsoft incident creation rule. So let's see this one first. So from here, what we can do is we can just name these particular incidents, and then particularly let's say demo incident, and then we can have some kind of a description, and then we can see what kind of an analytics rule logic that we want to analyze this one is for. So let's say now that we just select this Microsoft Defender for Office 365, and then we can filter by any kind of a severity, or for example, if we just say custom, then what kind of a severity we want to monitor this for. So it could be high, medium, low, or informational. So let's go ahead with any. And then again, here we need to include any specific alerts. So let's say, for example, we want to include any of the alerts for malware or any kind of an phishing attack. So we can do that. And then you can just go to the next page. Here you will be able to create all those incident automation, and from here, whenever there will be any kind of an activity detected for malicious attack, it will create an incident for you. But now that let's see how we will be able to do it for Office 365 logs. Okay, so from here we can probably click on this scheduled query rule, and from here we can just specify the name, and then again here we do have something called as a tactics. So in the tactics field, we can choose the categories of attacks to classify the rule, right? So here we have various tactics, including from pre-attack, execution, persistent, till impact. So what we will do now is that probably let's see the one analytics that which we have already created. So this is one of the analytics which is a SharePoint bulk edit item. Let me just quickly edit it. So what we want to do here now is that whenever there is any kind of a bulk edit operations happening inside of SharePoint, we want to get notified via an alert so that we can go ahead, check for those possible issues, and then take the corrective actions on that. So as an example, let's say for example, if someone is making bulk edits into the SharePoint, let's say more than 5 items are being edited in less than 5 minutes. I know this is not the use case on a daily basis, but for example, if any of the bulk edits happening onto the SharePoint which you want to get notified, maybe 500 or thousands of bulk edits in a less than 1 minute or in a less than 5 minutes, probably someone is trying to play around with your data, right? And then we should be able to have some kind of an analytics rule which will create an incident for that and will be able to um, act on that particular incident. So now that firstly we will start with that analytics rule. We are naming that particular rule as a SharePoint bulk edit items. We can provide some kind of a description which is needed. And in the tactics, we have selected all of those 13 tactics which are available to us. The severity for that incident, we can define whether it should be a informational, low, medium, or high. So we are just simply making it to a medium. And then we can set the status as enabled so that this particular analytics rule will be in the effect, and it can help us to detect any kind of an bulk edits happening inside of SharePoint. Next thing is that we want to set some kind of an rule logic. Again, here we can specify our KQL, Custo Query Language. So the KQL language or KQL statement here is office activity where the office workload is SharePoint and the operation is in list item updated. So for example, if there is any kind of an list item updated operation is happening inside the SharePoint workload, we want to get notified. And then again, we have a few more configurations here. Like let's say, for example, we want to run this query for 5 hours and look up data from the last 5 hours. And let's say, for example, if this alert threshold, we can set like if the number of generated alerts when the query result returns, if it is greater than 5, we want to get it notified. So what will happen is that when there will be more than 5 edits to SharePoint list item in a span of 5 hours, Azure Sentinel will create a incident for the bulk editing. So in a real world scenario, this won't be a number 5, but at least it can go to 5,000 or maybe 1,000. Let's say, for example, if you want to monitor that someone is not bulk editing your data and not playing around with your data. Next thing is that the incident settings. So whenever that particular rule logic has been triggered, we want to create an incident out of it. So for that reason, we will set this as a enabled so that it will automatically create one incident whenever this particular analytics rule is created or whenever it will be triggered. So again, we also have something called as an automated response here, but probably we will leave it for some later exploration. And then we can just click onto the review to get all those settings reviewed. So at the end, what will happen is that we will have something some kind of an analytics rule created for SharePoint bulk edit items. So quickly, it's like, for example, if there are any 5 edits happening in 5 hours to SharePoint list item, it is going to create some kind of an incident for us.
Now let's see how to respond to threats. So we can use a playbooks together with automation rule to automate incident response and remediate security threats detected by Azure Sentinel. So automation rules help you to triage incidents in Azure Sentinel. You can use them to automatically assign incident to the right person, close the incident, change their severity, and add the tags.
All right, so now that let's see like how we can make use of those playbooks with the automation rules. So we just saw that like whenever this kind of an analytics rule will be triggered, it will create an incident, and all those incidents will be able to see here. So now that, let's say for example, if we go to the incidents, here we'll be able to see all those incidents. So right now we have 58 open incidences. All of those are new, and all of those are happening for SharePoint bulk edit, because what I did is like just before we started with the session, I did few bulk edits into the SharePoint. So now that we have incident created for this, so now that it is good, that means at least whenever there is something malicious happening inside of our Office 365 environments, we are getting some kind of a notification here inside of this Azure Sentinel. But now that this one is just sitting here into this Azure Sentinel, let's see like how we can still go beyond this and how we can automate this so that whenever any kind of an incident happen, it will send some kind of a notification to us, maybe on Microsoft Teams team, so that everyone will be aware that there is some kind of an incident which has happened and someone should quickly act on that particular incident. So let's see how we can do that. So for that, we have something called as an automation here. So through this automation, we'll be able to create at least automation rules or playbooks. So again, for example, let's say let's go ahead with automation rules. So we can just name the rule, and then again, for example, we want to when this particular rule should run. So let's say for example, if there is SharePoint bulk edit items is happening, or any of the other analytics rules that we had created is happening, we should trigger this particular automation rule. And again from here will be able to specify all of the action. So let's say, for example, whenever this particular automation rule is triggered, what kind of an action it can take. So it can either run any of the playbook, it can change the status, change the severity, or even it can assign any of the owner to that particular incident. And then again, we can just set the rule expiration, like when this rule should expire. And then again, we can have n number of automation rules created. So here we can specify the order. So if the number is less, obviously it will have the higher priority to run. Second thing here, what we can do is we can create a playbook. So playbook, that means it will create some kind of a workflow through which we'll be able to take the action whenever there is any kind of an incident is happening. So this one will be nothing but the Azure logic flow through which we will be able to create our logic flows through which we'll be able to act on those particular incidents. So this one is the create logic app kind of a window to which you can specify your subscription resource group, name your logic app, and then from here, all of those logic apps will be created. I already have created a few of the playbooks here, so let's explore that. So here we have a few playbooks. So I will just open up the first one, which will trigger whenever there will be any kind of an incident happen related to the SharePoint bulk edit items. So let me just quickly edit on this. This will just open up that Logic Apps Designer. So this is the simple Logic App Designer or logic flow through which what we are doing is that whenever any kind of a response to the Azure Sentinel alert is triggered, we just simply post that particular incident information onto the Microsoft Teams team. So we have one Microsoft Teams team created here as a emergency response, and inside the general channel, we simply post a message with this kind of an information, and then someone from the Microsoft Teams team should um, act on this particular thing, right? So let's see like how this happens. So let's say someone is doing the bulk edit onto the um, SharePoint list. Okay, so what will happen is that all of those events will be recorded here into the compliance center for the audit logs. And then we do have those data connectors available through which all of those logs will be flown to our Azure Sentinel. And once it is there, there will be an incident created. And once that incident is created, we have our automation rule through which we will run the Azure logic flow, which will simply alert our team on Microsoft Teams so that everyone will be alerted that there is some kind of an incident has happened, and then we should act very quickly on that. So now that, let's say, for example, if you want to test out this particular incident, how we can do that. So for that, let's go back to the incidents. Here we have all of those incidents created from the user activities or admin activities for the SharePoint bulk edit items. So I will just click on this. From here, we'll be able to see full details of this particular edit, like when it has happened, who did what kind of things. All of those things are from the Office 365 audit logs. Now from here, we can click this view playbooks, and these are all of the playbooks which is associated with that particular incident. And this is the same logic app that we saw before some time. From here, what we can do is we can just click on run, and this particular logic app will run now, and we should get some kind of a trigger here. Yeah, this is the trigger that we have received. So what will happen whenever there will be any kind of an bulk edits happening, we will get some kind of a notification onto our Microsoft Teams team, so that our team will be aware that there is some kind of an incident happens. Someone has tried to maybe do the bulk edit in SharePoint list items, so that there might be a potential risk of data breach or data leakage, those kind of a thing. So we can take those corrective actions very quickly, and then also we'll be able to sustain all this information for the historical purpose if needed in the future, right? So this is how we'll be able to automate, not just monitor our Office 365 logs, but again, we can go beyond that. We'll be able to take the actions, as well as we'll be able to take some kind of an corrective actions and respond back to our threats. So with that, here are few of the references if you are very much interested to further explore Azure Sentinel, or if you want to see like how we can monitor Office 365 logs from Azure Sentinel, how we can carry out the threat detection, as well as here are some good samples available from Brian Jacket on the KQL queries. So do carry out all those examples, all those samples, write your KQL statements, and just don't get notified onto the any of the incident happening onto the Office 365 logs, but take the corrective actions by automating all those things together. All right. So with that, thank you very much for listening to us, and see you soon.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. Bye bye. Take care.
Thank you.